Welcome, everybody, to our new show. It's the Mr. and Mrs. Sportscast. I'm the Mr., Tommy D.
I'm the Mrs. Double L.
And we're here to basically throw stuff on the wall and hope it sticks. We're going to do our sports news, kind of go over our opinions on things and our picks for the playoff games, which are obviously this weekend. We've got a few things to talk about here. Our format is we're going to do about 30, 45 minutes an episode and kind of give a different perspective on sports. We're not experts. We're not crunching numbers. We're just an average couple, and we wanted to give you kind of like a husband and wife perspective on what we think, and hopefully it'll be entertaining. But, we're just going to talk out of our backsides. So the first thing we were going to also going to go over just the format that we're going to, when we do our picks, if we disagree on anything, if there's a pick that we have different opinions on, we're going to bring in a special guest every week, and that guest is going to break the tie, so to speak. So let's just get into, first off, the coaching situation. Obviously, in the NFL this year, we've got a lot of teams that didn't do so great. And when that happens, some heads roll and you end up with some coaching changes. So I'm sure everybody right now is aware there's probably about 7 or 8 teams right now that are without head coaches that are looking to make their pick of who the next coach is going to be. I know the Raiders, they just made Antonio Pierce their permanent head coach. He was interim last year for about half a season. So, Double L, what did you think about that move, picking that coach?
Well, he was 4 for 4, so he did okay, but we'll see what he has for the rest of the season. Seems enthusiastic, but we'll see how it goes from there.
Yeah, I mean, you know my opinion on these coaches as far as I'm not a big fan of defensive-minded head coaches. I mean, I'll maybe in a future episode kind of get into that. But I'll just focus on the fact that, he was the interim coach and a lot of the players seem to like him, but I don't think that's enough. I mean, sometimes I think that that's a double-edged sword because if they're too busy liking you, then they don't respect you enough. So I don't know how this one's going to turn out. I really don't know that long-term that's going to be great. Maybe it'll give him a shot in the arm at the beginning. I also think he's a little bit overhyped because he doesn't even have coordinator experience. This is just somebody that, was like a position coach that got thrusted into being the head coach. So I don't know how over a full season that's going to play out. I just see it as a lateral move. I don't think it's going to move the team forward. And I think in the NFL, if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. So I don't know how that's going to work out, Now, of course, the Falcons and the Chargers have been pretty busy. They're on multiple interviews with Jim Harbaugh and Belichick, and I know Jim Harbaugh's already interviewed with the Chargers. So, I mean, what do you think about the Belichick maybe being the Falcons head coach? Because, it looks like there's mutual interest there.
I know he's a great coach, won a lot of Super Bowls, but I just feel like maybe his coaching technique is a little bit past his prime and you want a little bit more offensive-minded coach instead of the defense. I don't know how many years they can really, give into it because I know Belichick is 71, probably going to be 72. So we'll have to see how it works. And we'll see if he's GM plus coach. We don't know if that's going to happen as well.
Yeah, that's another situation. I mean, my understanding is they're on their second interview. They're having dinners going back and forth. So I don't, I know sometimes they call it courting a coach, but I think they're getting a bit ridiculous. They're going back and forth a lot over this. I mean, it seems like if both parties were absolutely sure that it was the, match made in heaven, maybe it wouldn't take this long. So I don't know if they're both kind of trying to convince themselves that it's the right fit or if it is the right fit, because one of the problems I see in the NFL sometimes is that these owners fall in love with a name versus what they are today and what they can do. I mean, Bill Belichick, we can't doubt his credentials. Obviously, he's got 6 Super Bowls, 20 plus years coaching the team. I understand he's got a legacy, but a legacy doesn't help you in this moment to win. I mean, they've got to concentrate on what he is now and not what he has been, because if you concentrate on that, you're just going to get the same bad result. I'm also worried about his age. I think I've told you about that. I mean, I think he's going to be 72 by the time the season starts. That's a lot to look at. I mean, that's a situation where the Falcons have kind of been going, 2-3 years per coach for a while now. And by getting this, 72-year-old as a coach, I mean, is he really going to go more than 3-4 years? I mean, so even if you get a best case scenario and he's more successful than I think they'll be, it still leaves you in a few years looking for another head coach and looking to, kind of redo it all over again. So I don't know. I like this move. I mean, I just think for a team like the Falcons, they got a lot of young players. They're kind of rebuilding. I think you got to get a young coach that'll grow with the players. So I don't know that I like this move. I just think that at this point, you're right. I mean, the game has passed Belichick by. What he was in the 2000s, the 2010s versus now, I think the NFL has changed a lot. I think you have to be offensive minded. I think you've got to be trying to score as many points as possible. The Patriots were down in the cellar as far as offensive points this year, and he hasn't done much in the last 3 or 4 years. So I don't know that this is a situation where you move forward with an old coach just based on a past reputation. So I just don't know about that. I mean, I really don't know. And again, like I've said, I'm not a big fan of defensive-minded coaches. I mean, what is your biggest worry about it?
I think too he's got to really, bring up a quarterback and train a quarterback well, and he hasn't really been able to do that for New England with Mac Jones. So I don't know if there were extenuating things and injuries, but that's something to look at. I know the defense in New England, he did do a better job with that, but bringing up a new quarterback and really training the offensive system, is he the best person for that? So
yeah,
that we'll have to see. I'm sure he'll get an offer from Atlanta, and but he is also 72. He'll probably be very happy to be out of New England in the snow and the cold and not be on that sideline. He looked freezing and very miserable at the end of the last game.
Yeah, he always looks miserable. I guess he looked freezing.
He looked freezing.
But the other issue you brought up, which I didn't talk about, is there's also the situation of they don't have a quarterback in Atlanta, and I mean this guy had 4 years post Brady to develop a quarterback, and he couldn't do it. He still has to show that he can win without Tom Brady. Tom Brady obviously already showed he can win without Belichick. So I think the onus is on him to show, hey, I wasn't just the Tom Brady show. And I mean, they don't have a quarterback at all in Atlanta. So then they've got to find another quarterback. And he doesn't have the luxury of 4 or 5 years to develop the next quarterback. He probably would have to be confident they can get somebody. Maybe they'll get Kirk Cousins and overpay him or something, but I don't know. Even that wouldn't be good, because then you're talking about bringing in a quarterback that hasn't shown he can win in the postseason. So what are you doing? You're just kind of spinning your wheels at that point. So I don't know about that one. I think Jim Harbaugh's a good guy to get out there. I mean, I think because he's been in college for a while, people forget that he also did very well in the NFL. He actually left after making the Super Bowl against his brother, when it was the Niners and the Ravens. So right. He's shown he can win at both the college and the pro level. Other than Pete Carroll, I can't really think of any other coach that's shown they can do that. So I think he's the most attractive candidate, because I think he's still got some juice left in the tank.
Right, and he just won a national championship with Michigan, but it looks like he's wanting to get out of college and away from some of the rules. And
I think so. I think they got to get away from those rules, and I think he's a pro coach at heart who just happens to be good enough to win at the college level. So I think he belongs back in the NFL. He wouldn't have to deal with all those regulations and things like that. I think he's the most attractive coach. I mean, if I was out there as an owner and I'm just looking to spend big bucks to bring in a coach, I would rather bring in Jim, because I think he's still got some innovative things he can do. I really think that someone like a Belichick, he's played his hand. I mean, I think what he is. I think his style of coaching the game is kind of passing him by. I'm just not a fan of when you're trying to rebuild a team, trying to go with an old coach set in his ways. I just don't think it works.
Right.
So let's see. I mean, there's obviously other teams. The Cowboys have already indicated they're going to stick with Mike McCarthy, because, Jerry Jones is a cheapskate. He doesn't like the idea of paying a coach to sit at home while he has to go pay another coach. So he's just going to let him ride out his contract. I would suspect that just basically means they're going to do the same thing again. They're going to look good in the regular season, win double-digit games, and then come playoff time, poop the bed.
And the Patriots have already picked their replacement for Belichick.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Mayo. And I remember when he played college in Florida, and then he had a nice decade career in the NFL. But again, I'm also not really a big fan of taking a position coach and then jumping them straight into the pros. I mean, I'm a Buccaneer fan, and I remember when we did that with Raheem Morris. Those coaches they're not ready. I mean, they're just, they're like a deer in the headlights. So I just don't think it's going to work. But I think he's going to be a patsy. I think the Patriots know with that kind of a legacy, they need to bring in a coach. Whoever it is, probably not going to do well. So they need to bring in a coach just kind of to distance themselves from the Belichick name. And then I think the next coach that comes after him in a couple of years, after Gerard Mayo, will be the real coach that they're going to move forward with. I think they're just going to kind of take their lumps for a couple of years, maybe build up some draft picks, and then the real coach will come in. It's kind of like what Houston did when they were rebuilding, and they brought in Lovie Smith for a season, then they got the top pick, and now they're in the playoffs. So I think it's the same formula that New England's going to follow. What do you think?
yeah, I agree with you with that, and I do think it'll be interesting to see what the Crafts do, having like the power back and the leadership and being able to make the decisions without Belichick being the GM.
Right.
Whether they put another GM in charge or kind of keep those decisions to themselves. It's been a long time that Belichick has been both of probably 14, 15 years, right? Or even
Yeah,
20.
I mean, he's been the guy doing everything, and that's what I think makes it even more of a situation where I don't think a team's going to do well with Belichick, because he had 4 years, but it wasn't just him as the coach. He also had the power of the final say on the personnel. So he had the power to get the guy that he thought should be the quarterback to move forward, and he failed on both fronts. So I just don't think it's going to work with another team. I don't know that another owner is going to want to give him the same power, because he doesn't have, you may have won all those championships for Kraft, but if I'm an owner of the new team, you ain't won anything for me. So why should I give you that much power? So I just think there's a lot of issues there that aren't going to turn out well, and certainly aren't going to turn a team around in just a couple of years, which is what you got to do in the NFL. There's not time for long rebuilds. That's why NFL's not for long.
Yeah, but Belichick is a big name, and it's going to bring people into the stadium and going to Atlanta and buying the tickets. But I think overall you want to win, and you want to have a coach who can get you there. So
Right.
we'll have to see how it plays out, where he winds up, how successful he is. So I guess
And
time will tell.
That's the problem. I mean, you're getting a coach again. You're buying a name, and I think we talked about this, previously. Is you can just get any names and bring them in just to have a bunch of names people know on your team. I mean, if you want, you can go get players from 10 years ago that aren't, and just bring them in because they're names people know of. I mean, you could find some guy off his couch that can't catch on with the team just to have a bunch of big names. I mean, you've got to have the young players that are able to get you turn around a team. You've got to have a coach that's on top of the current game in the NFL. The NFL now is offensively focused. The rules have been changed. The enforcement of the rules have been changed. It's all about scoring the most points. So I mean, that old school defensive conservative mentality, I just don't think is going to work anymore in the current game.
And how many of our 8 playoff teams are more offensive minded instead of defensive minded? The majority are, I think.
Yeah, I think it's like it was. I mean, last year I think we went over the last final 8 teams. It was like 7 of the 8 were offensive minded coaches. So I don't know. I didn't look at the exact stats, but I'm sure it's something similar. So we'll have to see what happens. But yeah, I mean, and you don't know. There's still playoff teams. I think all the teams there right now that are still in the playoffs are safe. They're coaches. But you never know. The Bucks could do something crazy. They could say the heck with Todd Bowles. I mean, I doubt it. I think beating the Eagles kind of secured them another year. But you never know what these owners are going to do. Sometimes they come from out of left field. So it'll be interesting to see how this head coaching thing all shakes out. I mean, obviously there's other teams that are in the hunt, but you just don't know what they're going to do.
Right.
So yeah, it'll be interesting. So,
And you do have about 7 to 9 teams that need new coaches. So whether they're going to promote offensive or defensive coordinators or go outside, see
Right.
where things are going to lead.
yeah, because so far 2 of those positions have been filled. Obviously, the Patriots and the Raiders.
Right.
They went from within, but those are defensive-minded coaches, and there are 2 coaches that were not coordinators that went straight from being position coaches. So, I mean, I think at best those are lateral moves. Maybe they can surprise somebody, but I don't know. I mean, I'm hearing about Antonio Pierce bringing in old man Marvin Lewis to maybe be offensive coordinator or be his right-hand man. So I I don't know how that's going to work. I mean, I don't see how a mentor that never won a playoff game in 16 years coaching an NFL team as head coach is going to help you out. I mean, what is he going to teach you? How to lose? I mean, I don't see how gets a team better.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't have a good resume, so we'll have to see how much he utilizes them and, what happens in the future.
That's right. Plus, the Bengals, they got those pretty uniforms, so what a waste that would be, right?
Oh, yeah, those helmets are so shiny.
Yeah. See? That's right. In this game, remember, you've got to score, those touchdowns, man. You got to get those 28.5 points every score.
Yeah, he always picks on me for that. I'm like, 6 points, honey, 6 points. Yes, I know.
Yeah, it all depends on the point spread.
Sure it does.
All right, so I think we'll probably get into some picks now. We got the playoff games, so I'm just going to bring them up right quick on the phone so we don't forget. We've got this year's playoff games. We're down to the divisional round. Usually, I think, for my money, the best round of the playoffs. I mean, the wild cards, you got some teams that probably are kind of scrubby that, they're not going to give a competitive game. Usually the divisional games are the most competitive. Then once we get to like the conference championship games, I get a little sad because that's when I kind of realize, hey, this football season is coming to an end. So I like this round of the playoffs the best. How do you feel about it?
I would agree with you too. Sometimes when you get to the Super Bowl, you have even two very well matched teams, or usually it's more one-sided and one team dominates the other. And I do like watching the game, not just the commercials, even though you think I don't know anything about sports, just to let you know. He thinks I just like the shiny helmets.
You just like the spandex pants.
There you go.
You just like.
I do like looking at the tight ends, not
See?
just the position. So there you go.
So I know you'll probably do your usual strategy, and you'll pick the games based on whose butts look best in the spandex and who has the prettiest helmets. I know.
There you go.
I'm gonna give you a shot at this anyway. So let's go into the Saturday games. 4:30 we got on ESPN. We've got Houston at Baltimore. So they're going right away to the game that they probably think will be the least competitive.
Yeah.
So what do you think over there, Mrs.?
I do really like Houston, and I do like their young quarterback. I think he can do a lot, but it's going to be tough to go up against Baltimore and Lamar Jackson. I mean, he's got the legs and he can run everywhere. He is a Florida boy. We do live in Florida now, so we'll have to see. We'll check it out. But I'm kind of rooting for Houston. I would like to see them beat them, but Baltimore hasn't won in a while, so I think my pick, I'm going to go with Baltimore.
Oh, going out on a limb there, huh?
Going out on a limb. Yeah, I'm kind of a favorites girl sometimes.
See? Yeah, it's those pretty purple and black colors, isn't it?
Yes. Baltimore has the best crab cakes in Maryland, so,
There you go.
Being the Jersey girl, so I do always remember that.
But you like barbecue also, so I don't know.
I do like barbecue in Houston,
So let's see. I just want to first just read the point spread. You got right now as we speak, Baltimore 9.5 point favorite. And again, this is probably why this is the first game. I mean, I think they'll cover. I like to talk a little bit about the point spreads because I do bet on games here and there. I'm not really someone trying to bet to make money. It just makes the games more exciting for me. And I don't bet on every game. I'm pretty picky. When I look at betting, I just kind of look at the spread and I look at the overall points they're predicting and everything. I just kind of look at it and I'm like, did Vegas get this one right or are they off? And if I feel like they're off on what the spread is, then I'll jump on a game like that. I did that last week with picking the Bucks over Philadelphia and also picking Green Bay over Dallas because I just felt like the spread was off, so I jumped on it. So in this one, I think the spread is actually pretty spot on. So I wouldn't touch Houston with a 10-foot pole. It's been a great season for Houston. I mean, they've done great and much better than I thought. I didn't think they'd make the playoffs. I thought this would be another transition year with a rookie quarterback. C.J. Stroud's been a lot better than I thought. Mm-hmm. I actually have a bias towards Ohio State college quarterbacks. I haven't seen any until now that didn't suck. So you got to give the guy credit. I mean, he's played very well. He's playing like a poised veteran. But I just think this has been further than I ever thought they would go, and I just think this is the end of the road for the Texans. I think they're on house money now as far as what they've accomplished, but I think this is as far as they're going to go with such a young team. but next year, you know, they could be in the Baltimore spot where they're the one to beat. So yeah, I'm going to agree. We're going to agree on this one. I'm going to take Baltimore. I also agree that the point spread is accurate. I think they'll beat them by at least 10 points. So yeah, I think we agree on that one. It's going to be Baltimore versus Houston. So next game is the 8 o'clock game, which is going to be San Francisco and Green Bay. I would have to say that's probably the second game that's with the least surprises. You know, I noticed the pattern here. They took the two conference number one teams and put them on Saturday. So you got Green Bay at San Francisco. Might be some rain. I noticed this morning on SportsCenter that it was raining when they were doing the report from the stadium. So what do you think about that one, Mrs.?
I do think Green Bay is playing very well, and I think Jordan Love is had a great last 4 or 5 weeks. But I think San Francisco just has too many weapons. Brock Purdy, McCaffrey. So, and I do really like San Francisco a lot. And Brock Purdy is very pretty. Very pretty guy. So.
And also it's McCaffrey, not McCafferty.
Okay. McCaffrey.
That's the old guy back in New York that used to do the NBC News, Jack McCafferty.
Oh, there you go. See.
But see, yeah, this is you got to remember the names. Don't just look at their tight ends. You got to look at the names on back of the jersey too.
You know, but the butts are very important, so we got to check that out too.
I know, and I know it upsets you that they tackle each other and they should talk out their feelings instead of hitting each other on the field. But these are the rules. All right, yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you on this one again. Agreeing with you 2 times in a row, that kind of sucks. But
yeah, doesn't it though?
What can I say? Let me just get into the spread here. That's a 10-point spread. I kind of see this game going similarly to how I think Baltimore and the Texans are going to go. Green Bay's in a similar position to the Texans. I mean, they're doing way better than was expected. That's a very young team also, and they've overachieved. So I kind of think they're at the end of the line of their overachieving for the season. I think this is kind of where the rubber is going to meet the road. San Francisco is just too loaded with weapons. I mean, I think similarly to the Ravens, it's about health. And right now that team's pretty healthy. As long as they stay healthy, that probably will be your Super Bowl. I mean, you might get Frisco versus Baltimore.
Yeah.
But I definitely think they should cover this 10-point spread. I agree with it. Again, not a game I'm going to touch with a 10-foot pole because it's just too predictable. But yeah, I think San Francisco should beat Green Bay pretty handily at double digits. And I think I don't think they'll have much trouble. I think they'll move on easily to the conference championship. So I'm going to agree with you on that one.
Okay. That could be the kiss of death when he agrees with me. So
could be.
We'll see.
It could be. So yeah, man. But that's rounds out the Saturday games. So now we get to the good stuff, the nitty gritty. I think the Sunday games will be much better than the Saturday games. Oh, and also the Saturday game, the early game I told you was on ESPN. So the late game, the 8 o'clock game, that's going to be on Fox. So that'll be a Fox game. So then that gets us to Sunday, 3 o'clock, my game, my Bucks against the Detroit Lions from Detroit, Ford Field. That game will be on NBC or Peacock. It's probably how we'll be watching it because we're modern people.
Now that I met the Bister. So he's brought me into the 21st century.
So what do you think about that game? Are you going to run afoul of M&M and go for the upset, or are you going to take the favorites? I got them Lions favored by 6 points.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Lions. It feels like we did pick the games throughout the year, and usually I did not pick the Bucks.
Yeah, you were a hater.
So I was a hater. The Mister, that's his team, and I get it, but I'm going to, Detroit hasn't been in the playoffs in 30 years.
30 years. They have not won a playoff game since Barry Sanders was with the team.
And that is pretty crazy. So they probably are the team, the team that most people are rooting for, the underdog. I do love my Rocky underdog, so I think I would like to see Detroit. I may root for your Bucks for you. We'll see how nice I am to you, whether I'm nice to the Mister or not.
Yeah, exactly.
But it would be a nice story to see Detroit, move on and even, maybe get to the Super Bowl. So.
All right. Well, do you want that to be a conditional pick as long as they don't wear that all gray getup that they wore a few weeks ago?
Oh yeah, I hated that all gray uniform. It felt like they were wearing long johns, and I was like, "What is wrong with my Detroit?" So there you go.
Yeah.
But
and again, just to be clear, again, Detroit is the favorite. They're 6 points favorites. Of course, Eagles were a favorite last week, and you picked them, and how'd that turn out?
That did not turn out so well for me. So, and I think you did pick the Bucks, so you were right on that pick right there.
That was one where, again, I don't bet on my team much. It's usually my thing. I just don't do it. But that 2.5 point spread they had last week with the Philadelphia Eagles over the Bucks after they'd lost like 5 of the last 6 games and they've been looking so terrible, I was like, that's a ridiculous spread. So when I saw a spread like that, I jump on those because when I get that feeling in the back of my head, like, oh my God, this spread is so wrong, that's usually the ones where I win and I come out pretty well. So I took that one and, made a couple bucks. But let me just say this. Tampa Bay has had a great season, man. I mean, this is way better than I thought. When the greatest quarterback of all time, and I know people have their varying opinions about Brady, but, statistics are statistics. Statistically, he's the greatest quarterback ever. When someone like that leaves your team, and you've had all the success and you've won a Super Bowl with them, usually it stands to reason that team is going to take a step backwards and they're going to, I thought maybe 4 or 5 wins was best the Bucs were going to do. We were unsettled at quarterback, didn't know what you're going to get out of Baker Mayfield. And when he was brought in, he's actually brought in to training camp just to compete with Kyle Trask, who was the quarterback who'd been there for a couple of years, who was drafted in the 2nd round. So I didn't even know if he was going to be able to beat him out. So he's had an amazing season, much better than I thought. $4 million base contract. He's exceeded all expectations. And you look at a situation where his production was probably within 2 touchdowns, couple 100 yards of any of the leaders. So you got all that for just a few million versus these guys are making 40, 50 million a year. So easily the best value of the year in the NFL for any team. So I mean, they've overachieved. I didn't even think that they would make the playoffs and win the division, and then I didn't know that they would make it past the wild card. Like I was saying, because of what time their game is, we know they're going to be at least one of the last 6 teams standing in the playoffs because the other 2 teams today are going to be eliminated, 2 teams. So final 6 is as good as you can get. I mean, I don't think that anyone would have thought this. No odds maker would have picked this. So I'm very happy with what the Bucs did this year. But with that being said, Detroit at home, they're pretty healthy. They don't have too many injuries. I just think they're probably destined to at least make it to the conference championship. I will say this. I don't think that 6-point the 6-point odds are that great. I think that they're kind of overselling Detroit as far as they're going to win this by a full touchdown. I think this is going to be maybe a 3-4 point game. So if somebody's out there looking to bet, you might want to take a shot at maybe taking the Bucs with the points. I don't think they're going to cover that spread, but I do think Detroit will win the game outright and make it to the next, to the conference championship. So I think we're going to have to agree on that one also. I mean,
you're picking Detroit. You're not going with your team. He hasn't gone with his team all year,
Not sure.
Towards the end.
I pick them sometimes, but I'm not one of those people that, that's my team, I have to pick them. When my money's on the line, I go by the statistics and the numbers. Statistics and numbers tell me that, there's matchup issues here. You also have to look at how a team matches up. You have to look at what does this one team do well and what does the other team not do well. I think the way it matches up, I think that the Bucs have an offensive line. If there's one weakness to the team, it is the offensive line. It's kind of a makeshift offensive line. They've had some injuries there. And one of the things Detroit does very well is they rush the passer.
So if they're rushing Baker Mayfield and he doesn't have time to pass, that's going to make a big difference.
That is going to make a difference, and you might get a turnover or 2 out of that. I mean, I think Jared Goff is a good manager of the game. He doesn't shoot himself in the foot too much with turnovers. And the Bucs, they like to blitz and make turnovers. So I think those factors, are matchups that favor Detroit. So I always go by the statistics and the matchups. And it favors Detroit, and they're at home. That crowd's going to be insane because, they got a chance to get to the conference championship for like the first time in decades. I mean, I think that's too much to overcome. So I think we're going to agree on a 3rd pick in a row.
Oh, no. Lightning's going to strike us very
soon. Exactly. But now we get down to the last one.
All right.
We get down to the game that's probably the one everybody's going to focus the most on, which is going to be Kansas City at Buffalo. That is in Buffalo at their stadium. I will say this, that game is supposed to be an 8 o'clock game, and a 6 o'clock game. So the Buck game's at 3 tomorrow. 6 o'clock is going to be the the Buffalo game, and that game is going to be on CBS.
I was just hoping there was going to be snow like last week. I love seeing like snowy football games, but apparently not 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, you're not going to get that again. Sorry, I don't think you're going to get snow being a factor. Now that's a 2.5 point spread with the Bills as the favorite. So who do you think?
I'm going to go with Buffalo. I really do like Buffalo as a team. I do like Josh Allen. I think he's a great quarterback, and he did that. You know, he was able to run and get some really big first downs and that touchdown last week, which was great. I know he does make some mistakes and, you know, throw some picks, and so he has to be careful with that and keep the ball control. But I do like my Bills, so my pick will be the Bills.
All right. Well, let's see. We're going to have our first disagreement here.
Uh-oh.
And here's the situation. We got 2.5 point favorite. Again, I don't think Buffalo's going to win the game. And here's the problem. Josh Allen's their quarterback. I don't trust him. Last week he had a pretty good, solid game, no turnovers. I don't trust Josh Allen to go 2 high-profile games in a row without turnovers. Everybody's acting like he's the savior now because he played one decent game. You know, let's not forget the last game of the season they beat the Dolphins. That was kind of like a playoff game situation because the winner got the division. Mm-hmm. Let's remember he had 3 turnovers in the first half of that game. It wasn't for the fact that the Dolphins can't play worth a crap in cold weather. They probably wouldn't even won that game. Then last week, you've got a situation where the best pass rusher for Pittsburgh is injured in TJ Watt, and you've got your third-string quarterback, Mason Rudolph. That's not going to be the case here. KC is going to have their best pass rusher, Chris Jones. He's perfectly healthy. He's going to be back there eating Josh Allen's lunch all day. Josh Allen, when he gets pressured, he makes turnovers. So they're going to have the pressure on him. You've got a quarterback that when the lights are at their brightest, likes to take a dump and turn over the ball and cost his team the game. The other team has a guy that when the lights are brightest and the most is on the line, he finds a way to get it done and win games for his team. So I think it just comes down to the quarterbacks, and it comes down to the fact that now Buffalo's going to be facing a team that has, you know, their full players available to make the plays that are necessary. I think there'll be more costly turnovers, and if Kansas City knows how to do anything, I don't care how their regular season went and how they didn't get home field advantage. These guys know how to make turnovers when it counts, and they know how to win games when they're winnable. And I think with Josh Allen in a big game like that, he's going to give you chances to win the game. And I think it just comes down to that. And again, I don't think the point spread's a big factor because I just think Kansas City's going to pull off the upset. This is a game I actually bet on. This is the one I picked to bet on. And I took Kansas City outright with the money line to win. So no point spread. I just took the extra odds so that that they would just pull the upset off outright regardless of points.
You just want to see Taylor Swift in the suite with her red lipstick.
That's the bad part about this because I kind of feel like I win no matter what. If Kansas City wins, I win some money. Kansas City loses, I don't have to see T Swizzle or whatever the hell her name is anymore because I'm already over it. And I want to point out something else. At that Detroit game last week, that playoff game, they showed Eminem once in the crowd. They showed Taylor Swift 12 times out there. So, I mean, there's a little bias there. I don't know what that's all about, but yeah, I win no matter what, so I can't lose. But now that gets down to the end of the show here. We got a situation when we have a tie, we have a tiebreaker, and this is our part-time host who will be on the show sometimes, and we are going to introduce you to the third member of the team.
Yeah, the most important, most adorable one of all of us.
This is our special co-host. This is Topanga, the French Bulldog.
So here she is.
Hello, everybody. I'm Topanga. I'm a 6-month-old Bulldog puppy, and I have to keep these 2 guys in line. So I got to help these guys because these idiots couldn't pick 4 games together and agree on them. So now I got to break the tie. All right, so here's how this works. Topanga I'm going to put both teams on each one of my arms. The Bills and the Chiefs. You can see it right here. And whichever one Topanga comes to first, whichever hand, that is going to be the team that's going to win, and she's going to break our tie. Come here, Panga.
Come here.
Which one? Come here, Mama. Which hand? Oh, she went to the Chiefs. She agrees with me. Looky, she picked the Chiefs.
Topanga, you're not going with Mommy and the Bills. That is not cool.
I'm sorry, Mommy, but I have to pick the team that's going to win. You were wrong on this one.
Oh, okay.
That Josh Allen is poop on a stick without a stick.
Oh, okay. We'll see.
I don't like that guy. Plus, I don't like buffaloes. They could eat somebody my size. Penga, who loves you? Telly Savalas. Who else loves you? Telly Savalas' mother. I always tell you people this. So anyway, guys, I need you guys to subscribe, leave a comment, and like this show, or else Mommy and Daddy are going to chuck me in the woods and I won't get any good food to eat. So can you guys take care of that for a baby? I'm only 6 months old. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching my Mommy and Daddy. And don't forget again to subscribe, like, and comment. And if you make comments or if you have any sports questions, we will use them on the next show. Thank you.
Bye. So
Bye.
Mr. and Mrs. say goodbye.
Goodbye.